In the narrow streets of Florence, a brush danced silently. There was an artist, not just one who painted beauty, but one who recreated it. He didn't only paint the human body, nor just the gods. He painted in the language where the soul speaks through symbols. This man was Sandro Botticelli. But who was this mysterious artist? Why does his masterpiece, The Birth of Venus, still captivate people today? And why, after being forgotten for a time, did he return to the pinnacle of the art world? Let's find out together. Fact 1. Sandro Botticelli, the painter who turned beauty into art. There is one of the most famous paintings in the world, The Birth of Venus. But who was the one who painted this masterpiece? Everyone knows him as Sandro Botticelli, but that was not his real name. His real name was Alessandro di Mariano di Vanni Filippi. Botticelli means little barrel in Italian, and he got this nickname from his chubby brother. He started his painting career in Florence and soon became the favorite painter of the Medici family. His works brought to life not only religious themes, but also Greek and Roman mythology. His paintings are full of symbolism, delicacy, and emotions. Primavera and The Birth of Venus became symbols of the Renaissance period. However, near the end of his life, Botticelli could not adapt to the changing tastes of society and was forgotten. Rediscovered in the 19th century, this artist is now remembered as one of the rare talents who spoke the language of beauty and symbols. Fact 2. The genius born in Florence. Sandro Botticelli was born in 1445 in Florence, which was considered the cradle of art in Italy. At that time, Florence was the center of the Renaissance and breathed creativity. Although his family was not wealthy, they were not completely poor either. His father, Mariano Filippi, worked as a tailor. Sandro was the youngest of 4 children and spent his childhood in the narrow streets of this creative city. At first, his family sent him to apprentice with a goldsmith, but his passion for painting soon emerged. His artistic education began in the workshop of the famous master Filippo Lippi. In this environment, he learned both the technical side of art and the deep philosophy of beauty. Being born and raised in Florence's rich cultural atmosphere shaped the delicacy in his art and made Botticelli one of the most sensitive painters of his time. Fact 3. Botticelli's mysterious inspiration, spirituality, and symbolism. The beauty in Botticelli's works was not limited to form and color. Every detail created by his brush was filled with deep symbolism and meaning. For example, in The Birth of Venus and Primavera, every plant and figure carried a specific significance. He did not just depict nature, but also reflected the mystical aspects of the human soul. Many scholars believe that Botticelli was influenced by Neoplatonic philosophy, a philosophy that emphasizes the connection between the human soul and divine beauty. Because of this, his paintings harmoniously combined earthly beauty with divine spirituality. He used his art not only to show beauty, but also to elevate the human spirit. Additionally, later in life, as Botticelli turned towards religious devotion, he added new, more serious meanings to his works, and even wanted to burn some of his earlier paintings, a sign of his internal struggle between art and faith. This inner conflict made his art even more complex and mysterious. Fact 4. His most famous work, The Birth of Venus. A goddess is born from the blue waters of the sea. Her golden hair dances with the wind, her naked body covered in delicacy and purity. This is not just a painting. It is a miracle captured on canvas as a divine moment of beauty. Botticelli's The Birth of Venus holds a rare poetic power in the history of art. Though the scene of Venus rising on a white shell is inspired by ancient mythology, the artist infused it with such emotion that every viewer seems to hold their breath. The softness of the colors, the stillness yet liveliness of the figures, shows the unity of nature and humanity. In this work, not only a woman, but an idealized beauty in divine harmony come to life. With this masterpiece, Botticelli proved that art is not just form, it is the silent cry of the soul. Fact 5. When faith changes brush. At one point in his life, Botticelli became deeply absorbed in religious thoughts. This was evident not only in his mind, but also clearly in his art. The brightness of his colors diminished, and his subjects took on a darker and more serious aura. Under the influence of the famous religious reformer Savonarola, Botticelli even turned away from some of his earlier works. It is said that he once wanted to burn some of his worldly paintings. This period brought spiritual depth to his art and replaced the earlier divine beauty with heavy and contemplative scenes. It was as if he was asking questions to God with his brush. Fact 6. Fascinated by the secrets of the gods. Alongside religious themes, Botticelli showed a deep interest in ancient Greek and Roman mythology. In his paintings, he brought to life gods, goddesses, and legendary beings, as if breathing the spirit of the ancient world anew with his brush. Especially in works like Primavera and The Birth of Venus, figures such as Aphrodite, Zephyr, and other mythological characters were presented with delicate symbolism. His works were not just paintings, but a colorful narration of ancient stories. Fact 7. Fame that withstood the test of time. Throughout his life, Sandro Botticelli earned great respect and admiration both in Florence and across the Italian peninsula. His works were highly valued by the wealthy Medici family, and many prominent figures chose him for their commissions. His paintings were proudly displayed in Florence's palaces and churches. However, Botticelli's fame was not limited to his lifetime. Although considered one of the most talented painters of his era, changing artistic tastes caused his works to be forgotten and overshadowed for a time. It was not until the late 19th century that art historians and Romantic-era painters rediscovered his delicate grace and poetic symbolism. This rediscovery established his art as a gem of classical art worldwide. Though highly appreciated in his own time, Botticelli's true brilliance was only recognized centuries later. His art endured the harsh tests of time and lived on eternally. Fact 8. Two geniuses, same era, different worlds. Sandro Botticelli and Leonardo da Vinci were two giants of the Renaissance, yet voices from completely different worlds. They lived and created at the same time in Florence, but their art had significant differences. Botticelli devoted his brush mostly to symbolism, mythology, and delicate poetic beauty. Leonardo, on the other hand, was known as a precise observer of nature and a master of scientific approach. Realism and perfect depiction of human anatomy were central in his works. Two geniuses in the same city expanded the boundaries of art with different perspectives. This parallel best illustrates the richness and diversity of the Renaissance era. Although Botticelli and Leonardo inspired each other, each created his unique world, leaving an eternal mark in the history of art. Fact 9. The chosen painter of the Medici court, Botticelli was recognized as the special painter of the Medici family, the most powerful and wealthy family in Florence. The Medici family held both political and cultural power and invested heavily in the arts. They commissioned Botticelli to create works on various religious and mythological themes, thus decorating the walls of the Medici palace with his creations. This patronage elevated the artist's career and gave him creative freedom. Thanks to the support of the Medici family, Botticelli became one of the brightest and most influential painters of the Renaissance era. This relationship also influenced the rich symbolism in his works and the distinctive features of Florentine culture. Without the Medici family's patronage, Botticelli's art might not have reached such wide recognition. Fact 10. The path to eternity. Buried in Florence. Sandro Botticelli lived his life in Florence and breathed the spirit of his art into this city. He spent his final days there, and after passing away in 1510, was buried in the church of Ognissanti in his hometown. This place is part of Florence's historical and cultural heritage, attracting thousands of visitors each year who come to see Botticelli's grave. His tomb symbolizes the immortality of time and his works. Botticelli himself is no longer here, but his art lives forever in the world. Florence became both his home and the eternity of his art. Now let's reflect. Botticelli didn't just create beauty with his brush, he touched the depths of the human soul. His works have withstood the test of time, were forgotten, and then reborn, as if every stroke gained eternal life. Today we can feel that divine harmony in his art and understand his messages about beauty and humanity. If you believe in the power of art, join us on this journey, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications for new stories. Together, let's open the doors to the worlds of art and history in every video, because each of us carries a little of Botticelli's spirit in our lives. to inspire and be filled with beauty. Thank you, and see you next time.